there, my name's Mike Montgomery, and today I'd like to show you how to turn this boring Amazon LED shop light into something way more unique. We're trying something new, we're mixing materials, I'm even going to show you how to make braided power cords. So sit back and let's get started on Modern Builds. So these are the lights that I'm going to be using for this project. You can pick them up on Amazon. They've got 4 packs, 8 packs. I'll leave them linked below. Just make sure you get the right color temperature. These are 5600K. So first, we're going to take the cord, throw it to the side. We're not messing with that right now. We are going to take apart the light. The lights have plastic caps on each end, and those are really easy to remove. Just make sure and have one of those small precision screwdrivers. And as you can see, there aren't any electronics that I have to worry about for a couple inches from either edge of the light. So I laid out some lines and I drilled a 1/8 inch hole for some 1/16 inch galvanized wire to go through. This is how we're going to hang the lights. This wire is really cheap. You can buy it by the foot at Home Depot, or you can get 50-foot rolls, which I'll leave linked in the description. And after cutting 2 pieces to the same length, I got a ferrule and cap set. Now these crimp onto the wires using the same pliers that we just used, and they're what hold all of our components in place. The wire will feed from the inside of the light through the hole that we drilled, and the cap will keep it from pulling all the way through. I want these lights to have some sort of shade or shroud on them. That way there's just a little bit more happening. And when I found these at Home Depot, I knew that this was it. In fact, this was the whole inspiration behind the project. Now, I'm still not sure what this is called, but you can find it in the drywall aisle. If I had to make an assumption, this has to be something like drywall tape for stucco. I'll do a little bit of Googling, and once I figure out what it's called, I'll insert it here. Whatever it's called, it's really neat. As you can see, it's just bent wire, and every single place that these cross, there's a tiny weld to connect them. These pieces come in 10-foot sections, and I cut them to rough size before I painted them a hunter green. And while I was at it, I painted the clear cover that goes over the light with frosted glass spray paint to help diffuse the LEDs a little bit more. Once the paint on the shades dried, I took them back inside and cut them to the same size as the lights. Whoa, this wire is really malleable, which means it can get out of place easily, but it's also really easy to straighten back out. So because the wire is going to have to go through the center of the shade to make everything sit flat, I had to cut away a little bit of wire right where that thing is going to feed through. You can see what I'm talking about right here. My next step was to crimp on another stop onto our wire, this time 1.25 inches from the top of our light. Whenever you're making your marks and you're setting these crimps, make sure and be really accurate so that everything lines up square when you hang it. What you see me doing here is bending a washer into a half moon shape. Why am I doing this, you might ask? It's because the stop that I just crimped onto the wire isn't big enough to hold the shade by itself. By bending this washer into a half moon shape, I'm going to be able to use it to hold the shade in place really easily. Or at least, that's what I thought. I put that washer onto my wire, and then I realized that the hole for it was bigger than the cap that I had just crimped onto the wire. So I went back to the drawing board and got a smaller washer to bend in half. After I bent a couple of those successfully, I grabbed some Gorilla Glue Micro Precise Super Glue, and I glued that smaller washer inside of the larger one. You guys know Gorilla Glue is one of my favorite sponsors, and this is a new product of theirs. If you're interested in learning more, I'll leave a link down in the description. The design of the bottle has really good control, and the applicator is incredibly small for any kind of precise work. Regardless, once the glue dried, I was able to feed that double washer onto the wire, and it stopped successfully on the cap. Look at how cool that is. So while I was still set up to crimp those ferrules and caps onto the wire, I measured 3 inches off of the LED and I put the final stop on it. This is what's going to hold the dowel in place. One of the main considerations for this project is how to ensure consistent results from one wire to the next so that everything sits square. Now, I don't have any ideas on that other than just being careful. If you do, leave me a comment. Next, it's time to cut this dowel to length. And since we really haven't used any power tools, except for a drill, I'm gonna use a miter box and a hand saw to cut it. If you haven't used one of these, they're really simple. You just want to make sure that you're pushing the piece that you're cutting towards the fence away from you, since this is a push saw, not a pull saw. And there we go. From there, I sanded the dowel and drilled 1/8-inch holes to match the light. Then I put on a coat of Maker Brand Simple Finish. Now we're leapfrogging in time a little bit. This is actually before I sanded or finished the dowel, but you can see how everything goes together. Really quickly, before moving on, I'd like to give a big thanks to this video's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is the best place to build your own website, bar none. Why? Because their built-in designer templates look amazing right out of the box. That means you need no website building experience whatsoever. If you can arrange text, upload and edit images, you can customize your own website for a one-of-a-kind look. As y'all have heard, long ago, whenever I built the first Modern Builds website, I used Squarespace to do it. That was before they were a sponsor or before they had ever approached me, and I've got to say, I was a happy Squarespace customer then, and now that they're a sponsor, I couldn't be more proud to recommend them to you guys. So whether you're looking to show off your work, build an online portfolio, or an online store, I couldn't recommend Squarespace more. And right now, if you follow the link down in the description, squarespace.com/modernbuilds, and use the code modernbuilds at checkout, you can get 10% off your first Squarespace site. Thanks, Squarespace. This is the power cord for the lights, and it's not ugly, but it's not great. And on a recent Amazon hunt, I found this. It is nylon utility rope, and I'll have it linked below. And what I found is that you can remove these inner strands that make up the core for a hollow braided rope. But before I can get into that, I need to take this cord apart. I am not an electrician, so do not look to me for proper electrical advice. Do all of this at your own risk. I am simply documenting my own process. The rope snakes right over the cord, and you want to make sure to have a tiny bit extra. You can trim the excess off pretty easily. I used some heat shrink tubing to clean everything up and to make sure that the rope would stay in place. I just grabbed my heat gun and put it on its lowest setting to make sure that I could melt the heat shrink but not ruin my nylon rope. Once the heat shrink was set, you can see just how well it holds that rope in place. And I think it looks really good too. So once I did that on both sides of one wire, I did the same on the other. Now I am obviously excited with how good these ended up looking, and it's got me looking forward to doing some cool extension cord projects similarly. But until then, all I had to do was reassemble the switch, which was harder than I expected, and the lights were done. I couldn't be more excited with how this project ended up looking. Lighting is something that's really intimidating to me, and I've done a couple projects in the past, but I've never been as happy as I am with this one. It's cool, clean and functional, and really easy to customize. I would love to see anybody that chooses to make these and what colors they end up going with. Oh, and if you haven't noticed, I figured out if you stack two shades on top of each other, it looks way cooler. So normally this is where I would start wrapping up the video. I would say thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe, all of that good stuff. But lately I've been thinking I want to talk a little bit more about the process and the designs of what I'm building. Maybe I learned something new or I hit a snag along the way and can prevent you guys from doing the same. So on this project particularly, I want to talk about a couple things. First being the lights themselves that I used. These are 4 feet long and you can get them from Amazon, and you'll notice that they actually have 2 LED strips running down the channel. This makes these a little bit more expensive than the standard LED bulbs that you'll find, but they're technically twice as bright. If you're putting these lights in your shop or somewhere that you need it to be really bright, I highly recommend these. Make sure and get the right color temperature. But if you're in a space like this, maybe the light is gonna be over your desk or over a table, I highly recommend getting something with a little bit less juice. Right now, these are actually on a dimmer. Let me turn it all the way up so you can see just how bright it is.
Whoa. Yeah, so these get a lot brighter, and I definitely wouldn't want anything this bright over my desk. And to that point, LEDs really aren't supposed to be on dimmers unless they're specified, because you'll notice that as I lower the volume, it basically starts to strobe, because as you lower the voltage, it slows down the cycle rate of the LEDs themselves. The second thing I wanted to talk about was the power cords. Now these are not the most high quality things in the world, and this switch is not really made to come apart and go back together. You can see on the green one just how mangled it is from me trying to get it apart. And whenever I went to make a second light out of this orange rope that I picked up, I actually tried cutting the cord rather than taking the switch apart. On this one, I took the time to get some heat shrink and really do the electrical work proper, and I really came out with a nice result. And while I was at it, I went ahead and picked up some orange spray paint so that I could paint those cages orange and everything would match. So if I were you doing my project, I would recommend doing the cords like I did on this orange one.
Oh, and you can see here what I was talking about when I mentioned I used 2 shades earlier.
To be honest, I don't have too much outside of that. I want to give a big thanks to this video's sponsor, Squarespace. One more time, they're amazing. They have stuck around forever. To all the sponsors out there that have supported me and Modern Builds for a long time, thank you genuinely. Also, thank you to you guys for watching. This year, my channel has taken a big boost. My subscriber count is really going quick. So thank you to all the new subscribers, and huge thanks to everyone that has stuck around for a long time. With that being said, if you're subscribed to my channel and my videos aren't showing up in your subscription feed, which is a reoccurring theme in my Instagram DMs, make sure and hit that notification bell next to the subscribe button. I hate that I'm asking you guys to do that because it sounds, well, kind of cheesy, but if you aren't getting my videos, make sure and just click that. If you're already getting it, don't worry, just stay subscribed. If you're not subscribed, make sure and hit that button below. That way you are updated when I post new videos. And don't forget, follow me on Instagram. If you have questions about this project, you can leave them below or hit me with a DM. Thanks again, everybody, for watching. Let me know what you think about the project, and we'll see you next time on Modern Builds.